This is a Puss in Boots hat, right? Yeah. Put aside the fact that I got it in Disney World and it's not black and it doesn't have a feather. I'm just not going to wear the hat. Anyway, Shrek is a franchise with films in it. And yeah, this is coming out kind of late. We got a new entry in this Shrek cinematic universe like a month ago with Puss in Boots: The Last Witch, which is doing extremely well, by the way. I'm going to share my thoughts on it shortly. So today, the film watcher, will be ranking all. Oh my god, that worked really well. I will be ranking all 6 Shrek movies from my least favorite to my favorite. Let's do this. In last place is going to be Shrek Forever After. I've never really cared much for this movie. I think it's solid. Um, There's some cool stuff in there, but honestly, I cannot buy into the central concept at all. With like, okay, Shrek's doing the same thing day in and day out, and yeah, I get that he's frustrated. I don't buy that he would want to like sell his entire life. Well, I know he doesn't like. I know he just wants to get away from all of it for like, I don't know. He wants to escape, right? And I can understand why he'd want to take a break. And the things that he says in this movie, they do not sit right with me. I don't even think he would say like what he says to Fiona, how he wishes everything was the way it was before he met her. I don't even think he'd say that about the kids. I absolutely don't think he would say that about her. This is Fiona. We've been watching these two together for 3 movies. No way. No way. Did the people who made this movie watch Shrek 2? Did you see how hard Shrek worked to get back to her? Are you serious? Like, what's the deal here? I don't buy that Shrek would, just because he's unhappy with that his kids want to hear the same story over and over again. Oh, okay, yeah, that's reason for like I don't buy that Shrek would say any of this stuff. I don't. I do not like the first 10 minutes of this movie at all. Maybe it's 15, something like that. It bothers me, and it's just it doesn't work, and it kind of ruins the whole movie because it's the inherent setup, and I don't buy into the setup of the movie, so I don't really buy into the story all that much. And on top of that, the story, I mean, it's kind of interesting doing this like It's a Wonderful Life type thing with Shrek, but to do that and what this movie does, you have to tell the love story all over again, and that's not quite as interesting as it was the first time around because we already know that it's probably gonna work. He has to reconnect with Donkey, and he does that way too quickly. He has to reconnect with Puss, who's fat now. Okay, I guess that's kind of funny, but whatever. Um, yeah, there's some cool ideas in this movie. Like Rumpelstiltskin, I think he's a very good villain, super entertaining. I really like that he was voiced by one of the animators. Like that's just cool. And then you get some cool, like the ogre revolution is a neat idea, I guess, and seeing Fiona lead that is kind of neat. I do kind of like seeing alternate takes on classic characters, but this movie's setup just it does not work for me, so it is my least favorite of the Shrek bunch. Number 5 is Puss in Boots. This is a solid, if not super memorable, little spin-off movie. I mean, if you're gonna spin off a character from Shrek, Puss in Boots is the right character to do it. Um, yeah, he's a really good character, and he's able to support his own movie. He works very well in this film, and you get some nice new side characters in here. Like I think Humpty Dumpty is a solid addition, and the stuff that they do with him and Puss is neat. I guess the whole montage where it turns out Humpty Dumpty was there in every place that Puss has ever gone, that was kind of weird, and I get that was what the intent was, but I don't know. That is just a little odd to me. The climax was a little goofy. The middle chunk where they're all separated was a little bit slow. Jack and Jill are not great villains. So it's a fun adventure. I haven't seen it in a while. Maybe I should go back and rewatch it one of these days. But, it's from what I can remember, which is a decent bit, I suppose. It's a fun movie. It's able to stand apart from the Shrek films. So yeah, I like it fine. It's all right. Hmm. Number four, is Shrek the Third. In my time on the interweb in the past couple years, I've heard many people say that they really don't like this movie. I've always had fun with it. I Are the flaws there? Yes, yes they are. Um, you know, I suppose you could argue that reusing Prince Charming is a little bit lame. I don't see much of an issue with it because it is kind of building on what he did in the last movie, but he was really just an incompetent buffoon in the last movie, so making him the main villain of this one, not the most inspired decision. And it's not nearly as funny as the first two films. And then you have the issue with with some of these Shrek sequels. They redo a lot. So here in this film, it's not like an exact one-to-one comparison, but it kind of does that very similar Shrek 2 storyline of Shrek going on a journey and then learning to appreciate what he has in Fiona, and in this case, the kids. That's exactly what happens in Shrek 2, except it's done better because it was the first time. And then it's also done in Shrek Forever After, except albeit in a much more loopy and weird way. But honestly, I still like this movie a good deal. I still think it is funny, and despite it being a reworking of Shrek 2, I still do like Shrek's arc in here. I think King Arthur, Merlin are fun additions, and even though Prince Charming is an idiot, he's still a really entertaining villain. Like I think Rupert Everett was very well cast here, and he does a very good job. He's rendered completely pathetic in certain scenarios, but you know what? I do have a bit of a soft spot for the absolutely ludicrous performance he does at the end, which is just such an extravagant and hilarious attempt to kill Shrek that I enjoy it, and he's so bad at it. So yeah, I like it. Is it the most menacing thing for a villain to do? Absolutely not, but it's fun. And I do like King Arthur. I think he forms like this nice little bond with Shrek. Um, and I don't love stunt casting, but there is some good stunt casting in this movie. The princesses are all like SNL alums, and they're all a lot of fun. And you got like Julie Andrews in here. She sings The Sound of Music a little bit. So yeah, it's a good movie. If you would disagree with me, go right ahead. I've heard many people do so in the past, but I like it. Number three is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, a movie. I don't think it's great. I do not think it's great. I think it has a multitude of problems. I don't know about a multitude. It's not a perfect movie, in my opinion. I don't think it's all that funny. There was some funny moments, like there was some funny characters. Overall, I don't think it was nearly as funny as it should have been. So there was that. And then there's another big problem here. His name is Jack Horner. Now, okay, I have gotten into several online conversations in the past month about my opinion on Jack Horner. My opinion is this. I think that the idea of Jack Horner being a completely one-dimensional villain with no redeemable qualities whatsoever and having a conscience that tells him so is funny. And some of the conscience stuff is pretty funny. However, I find his character absolutely insufferable. Not because he is a one-dimensional villain. Again, I like that idea. I think that's a good idea. I don't think the movie does as much as it should with it because, again, he's not that funny. I don't think his lines are that funny. I think his character design is awful and very inconsistent. Sometimes he has large eyes, sometimes he has small eyes. I get it's animation, but pick one. And then there's John Mulaney. I really don't like his voice for this character. I don't think his performance is good. I don't think it works. I think John Mulaney works very well as a straight man who's acting off of someone else's bizarre and wacky antics, like in Chippendale Rescue Rangers, where he was acting alongside Andy Samberg, who took care of all the whatever I just did, but not that. So he took all of like the goofy stuff. That was him. That was Andy Samberg. Andy Samberg good at that. John Mulaney, when he's by himself, when he's just doing this goofy voice and being over the top, I don't think it works. A big part of what didn't work about Into the Spider-Verse was both the writing of Spider-Ham and his performance. Neither were that funny. Spider-Ham didn't have to be like a super overly developed character. He just had to be funny. He wasn't funny, and a lot of that was John Mulaney. I don't like John Mulaney's voice in terms of like a goofy, over-the-top character. And he is a very, very big part of why this character does not work for me. Yet, again, I would like to reiterate, I do not dislike this character because he's a one-dimensional villain. Again, I think that idea is funny. What I don't like is that he himself is not funny and is very annoying, and he turns into a giant version of himself, which is becoming more and more popular in animated movies nowadays. Whoop-de-doo. I'm sorry to stress this so much, but I have gotten into several conversations where I have voiced that exact opinion, oftentimes in those exact words, and people have told me, well, yeah, but that's the main idea. He's supposed to be a one-dimensional villain. And I keep saying, I get it. I get that. I just don't think he's funny or works at all. Another one I didn't think was that funny were Goldilocks and the Three Bears crime family. They're okay. They're decent antagonists. Not amazing. But you know what? I'm gonna talk about the good stuff in this movie. There is a lot of good stuff in this movie. I think Puss's whole arc works really well, where he's this like aging hero, kind of trying to come to terms with the fact that he is on his last legs. That is a great idea, and the movie just goes with it. You got this really sweet relationship with him and Kitty, and yeah, I like them together. And I don't know, I didn't really think of them as like a romance, despite them having insane chemistry. But, you know, I think the movie works it in pretty well. The dog. When they first put out the trailers for this movie, I was expecting to really not care much for this dog. But he was so sweet. He was actually by far the funniest character in the movie for me. He was so likable, he was so charming. He had a really dark backstory that he just completely was unaware of how dark and kind of terrifying it was. But he's just such a sweet, innocent character, and I really, really liked that. And I like the references to Shrek, too. I don't know where they're going with that, but I'm interested. And then you got Death. Ooh, wow. Death is a really cool villain. Because, like, and you get, like, these wacky antagonists, like Jack Horner and Goldilocks and them. But then you get to Death, and it's like, oh, this guy means business. He's for, like, and he is legit scary every time he's on screen. You hear, like, the whistling he does, and it's just like, whew. Yeah. And, like, you see Puss in Boots, like, shaking with fear, and it's like, you don't see animated characters do that that does not happen very often. To see, like, a character that's usually this filled with bravado and charisma, this frightened at something, and for good reason. Like, this is a scary, frightening being. I think the performance works really well. I think his design is cool. Everything about Death works really well in this movie. Every interaction he has is fantastic, and I really like the way they resolve that whole storyline as well. So, yeah, I don't think it's a perfect movie, but it is a very good movie. Number 2 is Shrek 2. What a movie. Man, you get, like, it's this movie, it builds upon what was set up by the first movie and really expands the world of Shrek, because as great as a movie as Shrek is, there's not a lot of, like, expansive world building. Here you get this full kingdom with subjects. You get the king, who I think is a great and honestly kind of underrated character that gets a fantastic arc in this film. You get some great actors in here. John Cleese, Julie Andrews, a phenomenal villain in the fairy godmother who's just so deceitful and vicious, and she's really funny too. Yeah, it's an excellent story for Shrek, where, because this is the first time they did this arc, I have no problems with it. Where he has this inherent self doubt in him because of kind of the way that Fiona's father talks to him, and yeah, like that makes sense for Shrek's character, where he's like, in the first movie, it's this love story, and then you go beyond that, and it's like, well, she's a princess, so that means her parents are monarchs. How would they react to an ogre marrying their daughter? And the movie goes with this. It's insane. It does it so well. It's really funny. The drama is interesting. You get this fun, like, body changing scenario where Shrek turns into a human, Donkey turns into this pristine looking horse, and you get the addition of Puss in Boots, who's just a great character. It's gotten like two very successful spin-off films. I hear they're pretty good. But yeah, this is a very, very good movie. The climax is excellent. As great as it is, I'm sorry, nothing's gonna top that original for me. Number one is Shrek. I love this movie. Every time I watch it, I just appreciate more and more just how just it was changing something. It was setting a precedent for movies to be like, you know, sarcastic about Disney stuff. And yes, Shrek was absolutely created because a lot of people had some spite for Disney, former employees even, but let's not go there because that's just a whole backstory. I don't want to get into that. Anyway, Shrek is awesome. It's really funny. The satire is biting. It's biting, I tell you, and it's darkly comedic, which I really like, and I think the later films kind of dropped this a little bit, increasing as they went on, which is probably why none of them are quite as good as this first movie. Honestly, the one that got it back was Last Wish, and that was a nice surprise. That was cool. But yeah, Shrek it's really funny. I'm a guy who enjoys dark humor, so seeing a bird explode into feathers and then them cooking its eggs, that's just funny to me. Does that make me insane? Does it? I don't know. But yeah, I love Shrek. It has this great love story where you get to see like the formation of this bond between these two. Their chemistry is great. Like there's this great on-screen couple that you like seeing together, you want to see together. You get Donkey in there, who's such a sweet, earnest character. Farquaad is still my favorite Shrek villain. As menacing as like Fairy Godmother and Rumpelstiltskin and Death are, I'm sorry, Lord Farquaad, nothing's gonna top John Lithgow. He's so funny in this role. I don't even mind the short jokes because I like goofy puns. I don't know. Are they dumb? Do they need to be there? No, but are they funny? Yes. Anyway, let's talk the cast in this movie. It's insane across the board. Mike Myers doing this incredible Scottish accent. Cameron Diaz, Eddie Murphy, the cast of Shrek, everyone. Magnificent. Yeah. It's a great movie. It's hilarious. It's satirical. Pretty much everything about it works for me. So yeah, it is my favorite of the Shrek films and will likely remain that way. That's my ranking of all the Shrek movies. Comment your own ranking down below. Thanks for watching and keep calm and Shrek on.